there, this is Danielle Dunlop with my first video for Possum Stamps. I will be creating a card from start to finish with you today with the adorable Spring Day stamp set. There are so many cute details in this one. And now that the holidays are over, I'm totally in the spring and summer mood. I will also be using this Rays of Sunshine stencil from Possum Stamps, and I love the size of it. You can use the stencil for your normal A2 size cards, but it also works perfectly with a slimline card or even a 5x7 card. Now, I went ahead already and stamped and die cut my images. I like to do that before I start coloring. And especially with the smaller size images, I like to put them on some washi tape. So they're not like forever stuck on there, but it gives you some grip to color your images. Now, I stamped basically all the images in this stamp set, but I will not be using them all on today's card. So I will skip some coloring here and there in this video. I will only show you the ones that I'm actually use in my card. And I started here with this super cute bunny. And I will only use the one facing the front. And for a bunny, I always like to go with my Copic E40s. So E44 being my darkest. Usually I don't go any lighter than E42, but I like to use the E41 for a tail, or if there's a belly, then I like to do that in the lighter E40s. So here you see me doing his little bunny tail. And for the inner ears, I'm using Arphi 10 for my darker pink and Arphi 000. And I also like to give my critter some rosy cheeks, and I'm using Arphi 10 for that one. For this card, all my greens are going to be in YG05 and YG03. So here you see me coloring some leaves of these flowers. I'm only ending up using one of these faces with flowers. And of course, I'm having the flowers in the crate on the flower stand. So I'll be coloring these too. Next, I'm moving on to my reds. And if I want my reds not be too dark or too bright, I like to use a more pink red, in this case R22, for my lighter red. And I do this a lot for Christmas images as well. It's not as dark as when I would use R35 for my lighter red and R29 for my darker. So you will see me using this combination a lot actually when I use red. Now I'm adding some yellow to the centers of the daisies, and I'm actually leaving the petals of the daisies white. And then the other two flowers in there are going to be yellow too. Yellow can be a tough color to blend, and especially in some smaller areas, I like to use Y15 and Y11. It's, for me, the best way to still create a little bit of definition in a way of a shadow. I'm using E55 and E53 for the browns in my images. So here I'm coloring the crate where the flowers are standing in. And I'm also using this combination for the wooden poles of the flower stand. There's not much room here in these poles to create a shadow, but I'm just starting with the E55 at the top and a little bit on the inside, and then I'm filling it up with E53. The bicycle in this Spring Day stamp set is an exact copy of the bicycles I always had back home in the Netherlands. And the last bicycle I had was a black frame, and the seat and the handles were a gorgeous light brown leather actually. So that's what I wanted to do for this bicycle. And I think I pretty much got the exact color here. So here I'm doing those And then I'll remind myself the tires were actually in that same color too. So here I'm showing you how I color some tires or wheels. And I like to put the darker color on two opposite sides of the wheels. And then I'm blending it out with the lighter one. So that way you get some little definition and shadow in wheels or in tires. I colored the other wheel the exact same way, and later on I also did the wheel on the flower stand in the exact same way. And now I decided to go for a gorgeous teal color for the frame of my bicycle. My last bicycle back home was black, but I've had these bicycles in basically all the colors of the rainbow back home. Us Dutchies go through a lot of bicycles during our lifetime. So yeah, I had a lot of colors, teal being one of them. So I go little piece by little piece, which makes it easier with a bicycle for me to decide where my shadows are going to be. Next, I'm going to color the flower stand, and I'm using the same colors BG13 and BG11. If there's one thing I learned along my card making journey is that it actually gives some calmness to your cards if you repeat colors. When I started card making, I was kind of obsessed with using all the colors of the rainbow. I felt like everything in an image in the card had to be a different color. That can come off pretty restless or chaotic in your card design. So that is a major thing that I learned. And you will see in the end result, there's going to be quite a backdrop in this card that will steal all the attention basically. So it is nice to have in the front something with repeating colors. So now I moved on to BG02, BG000, and BG0000. Next, I'm adding some grays for the final touches of the flower stand. And I'm using C2, C1, and C0. Mostly when I use grays, I go with my toner grays, but they are a little darker and I just wanted a light detail. So that's why I went for my Cs, my cooler grays. I also have a few details left on the bicycle, and I'm using those same cooler grays to fill up those little pieces. Just like yellows, orange can be a real tough color to nicely ink blend. I do feel like I found the right combination, which is YR09, YR04, and Y38. And it's quite a bright color. It also works great if you have a bonfire or a fireplace. And in this case, I wanted to have some extra popping colors, so that's why I did the butterflies in these oranges. I wanted somewhat of a neutral color for the vases because the flowers are quite popping already. And one of my favorite color combinations for this is BV23 and BV31. It is somewhat gray, but with a little hint of purple in it. So I wouldn't say grays are boring, but these beefy colors give it a little bit more of a nice color than just the grays. For my card today, I will be using the smaller vase that's going to go on the flower stand. And I'm using this taller one that I'm coloring right here. Next, we're moving on to the background of my card. And since I'm in this summer mood already, I'm going for a beach. Flowers can definitely be on a beach too, right? I do happen to live on a Caribbean rock, so summer and beach is an all year long event for me. So you will see a lot of beaches in my card designs. So I used some white washi tape to mark off the horizon of my scene, and I started ink blending with Distress Ink Squeezed Lemonade and Spun Sugar. And I keep going back and forth between these two colors to get some nice orange blend in the middle of these two colors. Then next I added the Rays of Sunshine stencil from Possum Stamps and placed it on top of my background. And I'm using Distress Ink Scattered Straw and Kitsch Flamingo. So a little darker yellow and a little darker pink to create those rays. For the next part, I'm going to create an ocean and a beach. And if it's a little too intimidating with Copics, you can definitely use some Distress Inks or Distress Oxides to create those. But I prefer to use Copics to create an ocean and a beach. And first, I start with the lightest blue, which is B41. And I just follow that horizon line, just trying to get a real tight, straight line there. And I always go from the outside to the inside. And especially with a sunset scene, I try to keep the middle of the water and the middle of the beach a little lighter than the outside edges. And I went in here with the darker blue, the B23, and then I'll keep blending that out with B21 and B41. It takes some practice, and honestly, it looks more intimidating than it actually is, in my opinion. And I would say don't stress too much over the details, because quite some part of it is going to be covered up with your images, and no one else is going to look at the exact detail of every brush stroke that you made on that card, right? People are just going to see the overall image. And I do like to go in with some BG10 to give a bit of a turquoise hint to the water. I do not entirely finish the ocean at this point. I'm going in with E00 to create my beach. And if I need to adjust the ocean, I'll do that in between. So first, I like to cover the first layer with E00, and I'm trying to keep the middle a little lighter. And then the next color I like to use is E33. And again, I'm going in from the outside edges to the middle with a bit of a flicking motion. Then I'm going back in with E00 to soften these edges of E33 a little bit. And it's just a matter of going back and forth. One tip I would like to give you, don't go straight in with your darker colors, because once it's dark, and there's no way back. So right now I'm adding some E55, which is a teeny tiny bit darker than E33, but it's a great beach color in my opinion. And I'm just following those same lines a little bit, and then I blend it out with E00 again to soften that a little bit. I'm adding some more E00 here, and then I'm going in with BG10 again to bring that water and ocean together, because there's always this area by the waterline where they mix. For now, I'm done creating my beach scene. I will go back in for some more details, but now I have my title to add, and I'm going with Sending Smiles Across the Miles. And then I'm adding my images. And once I have all those in place, it is easier for me to finish up that ocean and that beach because I will know where the shadows are going to be and I can easily see where it needs some adjustments. Now I had a little oopsie there where the butterfly is going. Initially, I wanted it on one of the handles of the bicycle, but some black ink ended up there on my background, so the butterfly had to move. I'm finishing up my scene here with a vase of flowers on the ground, as well as that super cute bunny. And then we have that small vase that is going at the top there on the flower stand. And then we have one more butterfly left, and that is going to go there at the top. So now it is time to add the details to the beach and the ocean. And this is where I'm starting with my darkest brown, E59. And I'm just adding some simple lines first at all the parts that are touching the ground. So the wheels of the bicycle, the wheel of the flower stand, the bunny, the face. And I'm just going along there and do some dark brown strokes. And also getting in between there because it's also darker back there. And creating shadows, it's not super difficult. It looks harder than it actually is. I don't really care for being precise or exact shadows. Just the way I do it, it creates enough of shadow for people to get the point. So I'm blending those E59 marks out with E57. And that is still really, really dark. So once we have that blended out, we go back in with E55. It's basically the opposite as how we started our beach. We're going from dark to lighter now. We're using the same colors. And now you see how those shadows are starting to blend in with that beach because we're using those same colors. And then you just go wherever you feel it needs a little more, right? Just go as it feels. If you feel like you need to go up a little darker, you go up a little darker. I'm also using that E00 again. And once I'm happy with this and I looked at my card, I was thinking this looks weird with those big white spaces in the wheels and in the wheel of the card. And I felt like I can ruin my card entirely right now, or I'm just going to do this. I went for it. So I'm going to continue my beach and ocean scene in those wheels. And honestly, I'm very happy I did. So in the first wheel of the bicycle, I put some BG10. So I'm doing the exact same thing when I started my scene. Starting with the same colors, the BG10 and E00. And then I'm going to continue the image from what is around the wheel. I'm going to bring that into that wheel. So here's that E59. And I'm trying not to do too much of it. And then blending that out with E57. And then the next one is E55. And just keep in mind that you keep looking at the outside, the beach outside the wheel. And at some point, I also had to adjust my beach again to make it matching. So here I'm blending the harsh lines out with E00. I'm trying to not cut too much in this part of the video so you can exactly see what I'm doing. But it's basically just keep going back and forth with your different brown colors and try to match the outer beach area with the part inside the wheel. The image needs to continue. That is what it's basically about. At some point, I also had to add some more color to the right side of the wheel. You see me doing that here. The part inside the wheel was a little darker, a little warmer, which is my E33. So I had to adjust that a little bit there on the outside, and now I felt like it's the same color. So I'm doing the same thing here for the next wheel, where you also can see a little bit of the ocean still. So at the top there's a little BG10. Then I'm filling up the image with E00. Make sure it blends nicely with the BG10. And then I'm doing the same thing, starting at the bottom with E59 to create that shadow, and blending that out with E57, then E55, and the warmer brown E33. The wheel of the flower stand was a little easier because there's no ocean that's coming through. So here you see me finishing up that wheel, which is just with the same brown colors. Now that my card is finished, I just need to add it to a card base. I like to use double-sided tape for it, and just remove the backing of that top strip. Then I line it up on my glass mat so it's all lined up with my card base. And then I remove the other two backings. It's just a simple trick for me to get it straight on my card base. So here's my finished card. I hope you enjoyed watching it all come together. Don't forget to hit that like button and to subscribe to the Possum Stamps channel to see more fun videos from the design team. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you all next time. Bye bye.